Hello, this is your host Alex, and the podcast you're listening to is Tap In Tap Out, where we tap into discussions around mental wellness, spirituality, and pop culture, and tap out of the patterns that no longer serve us. Amen. Hello, it's been a minute. I'm a couple weeks late, and I do apologize, but I have been recovering. I mentioned it on my Instagram. I am fine. I've been dealing with some allergies. But I'm making it through. I was trying to wait until my allergies fully cleared up, but I'm realizing that allergies don't work like that. And so I'm feeling good today, better than before. So I was let me just get on here and record because I've been trying to get this last episode for the year out, but I've been like procrastinating and sitting on my butt in my bed, and I was like, you know what, Alex, you have too much time today. Please get up and record. And so I hope you guys don't hate me. I accept your grace in advance. But yeah, I really just wanted to get on here and do a little check-in with you guys for the year. I am taking a little bit of a break for the next month or two, between now the new year and it's January. My birthday is January, so hence why my break. But yeah, I just want to get on here and really check in with you guys, like I said. And I don't plan to do like tight segments this episode. Think of it like just like a long phone call, FaceTime energy. Because I'm just like in a place where I have a lot of things I want to process. The new year, the end of the year and the new year is a really important time for me to reflect on my year and my life and kind of like connecting this year to the rest of my life. Even more so in my grad school right now. A lot of my assignments are about connecting my life together. So I'm doing a lot of connecting right now. And I've noticed that I've just been slower lately and just a little more paced with myself. And I like this a lot more than just the go Alex. And so, I don't know, I feel like I'm in a really interesting time in my life. And so this episode will definitely reflect that year in review type energy because that's where I'm at in my personal life. Before I get there though, I half promised you guys that I would talk about Adele, and I haven't because I haven't posted. But I did listen to the album thoroughly at this point now. It actually worked out because I got to sit with the album for a while. So I also watched the documentary, I guess the special with Oprah and Adele. Beautiful. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but I love the album. I know some people like acknowledge that it's a great piece of music, but it's not meant for them in this moment. For me, I feel like I love it, and I don't know if I necessarily need it right now in my life, but there are parts of it that I think are really resonant with me right now. And honestly, Adele, this album feels so much, I don't know, it feels mature. Not that her other albums don't feel mature, but this album feels a lot less reactive to like a breakup and just more kind of like acknowledging her own personal growth. And I think that's where I resonate most with. And the piano, I don't know, it feels very December too. This album will go really well, I think, with some Christmas music. I'm loving this album a lot, and haven't cried to it yet, but I've been close. Honorable mentions, I love the opening, Strangers by Nature. I think it's like really old Hollywood, like I don't know, I just love it's so theatrical, and I love the theatrical melody behind it. Can I Get It is really good. Definitely a favorite of mine. I Drink Wine is also amazing. My favorite right now is either Hold On or To Be Loved, and I cannot decide. I Drink Wine is good too, though. I don't have a favorite. I can't pick a favorite today. but it's between the ones that I mentioned. Besides Strangers by Nature, is either I Drink Wine, Hold On, or To Be Loved. But they really get me. They really get me good. That's all I will say. Um, Also with the Voice update, my team is lost. Ariana has lost. The finals aren't until I think they start next week. And so anyway, I probably won't be posting by the time the winner gets announced, but just know that Ariana's not winning, and so I'm not winning. End of story. When I talk about it, it's fine. Last episode we had a musical guest on the podcast, Tony Jones. Such an amazing conversation. She's a musician and affirmations coach and so full of wisdom, and I loved her energy, loved her album. I listened to it before I talked to her, and also a lot after. I've been playing a lot of her affirmations in the morning, and they've been so helpful throughout my day. You know, I've been needing that in the day. You know, favorites from that album, if you guys want to listen to it, it's called Me versus Every Me, and favorites of mine are Talk to Me Nice, which was the title of last episode. Also Inner Breakfast, very repetitious, but that's like the point of it. I love the repetition of the affirmations in that one. And also Born Again As I Am, so good. I just feel, I don't know, special. I love to meditate to those now. So yeah, I've been loving music lately, especially as I've been like healing. I've been loving music and just the healing properties that music has in my life. Yeah, so looking at this year in general, this year I started the podcast, which is pretty big. First episode came out in February, but I started thinking about it seriously probably in, I would say, November, December of last year. And I had no expectations for it, I will be quite honest. I actually wasn't gonna do it for a long time, but I was waiting on like genuinely I was thinking of doing it with somebody. That was always my idea of having a podcast. It was always going to be like with somebody else as like a regular co-host. And so for a while I had this idea for a while, but I didn't know when I was going to start it because I didn't want to like rush the process of finding a co-host if I needed one. And I think that I was kind of projecting that I couldn't have done it on my own. And so I think when I had the time, it was like 2020 of last year, and it was like that December kind of bubbly reflection time that I just talked about that I like to have. And I was like, you know, I don't need to wait on someone to validate what I want to do, you know, and I'm enough for this idea, right? And so I started it, and the rest is history, I guess. And even when I started it, I was like too scared to ask for like to reach out to guests. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have this podcast. It's gonna just be like me, just doing it. I'm gonna like not talk to anybody. And then I had reached out to Hanifa as my first guest. And after that first conversation, I just felt like, you know, I could really do this, you know, and reach out to people I don't know. And I'm really proud of the work that I've done this year. And if you know me personally, you know, that's hard for me to say sometimes, just that self-acknowledgement, but I'm getting better here and there. It was definitely just a challenge just to learn how to edit and learn how to market and learn how to do things that I don't normally do. But it's definitely helped me, even if I don't use these skills necessarily in a more professional sense, just the idea that I can like set my mind to things and see it into fruition is good practice for me, I think, to build self-trust. I'm thinking about my episode on imposter syndrome with Hanifa a couple of weeks ago, and just this idea of how at the core of imposter syndrome for me really is just a lack of self-trust, and how like you know, we're killing our own dreams in a lot of ways because we don't believe in ourselves enough to try. And I'm something that I want to take away from this year. I think I have two lessons I want to touch on, but one of them is just to um take time and think about what's good, what went well this year. Um I think it's really easy for us to be in the space of 2021 and think like how many things you didn't get to do, or how many things that, COVID canceled, or how many things that we were too scared to try. But really, like, even in the mundane activities in your life, like, what are the good things that you pursued and you accomplished? What good things happened to you without your control? Um, what are some good things you've done for yourself this year? And if you only think of two of them, then that's two good ones, right? And so I've been really trying to like focus on what's good, because the past won't be changing anytime soon. And so, as almost like fuel for the future, how do we focus on what's going well in our lives, Um, and also, I think a major thing I'm learning in this season of my life is giving myself permission to pivot, um, and stop doing things if I don't feel like I want to anymore. This is not me stopping the podcast. But I just feel like this year for me has been all about just trying things, And so starting a podcast, learning how to edit, how to publish it, even the different guests I have, like there's method to my madness, I promise. With like, I love this idea that the podcast has so many different avenues to take when it comes to guests being on the show. We've had psychologists, we've had musicians, we've had traditional artists, just friends of mine, social workers. Like, I love the idea that we can tap into mental health from anybody, because we all have a mental health, right? But even in that, strategically in the back of my mind, I have been trying to see, okay, which kinds of people do I like talking to most, and which kinds of people do I gravitate towards, which conversations am I most attracted to having, and how can I do more of what I like, And I think sometimes we corner ourselves to think that we can know those things in our brains, when really there's so much value in trying things. There's this whole internship conflict right now in culture of like, are internships even like valuable or whatever? But at its core, I think an internship truly is a way for you to physically figure out if you want to be a part of something for a longer time than internship would actually be. And so this podcast, in a way, has been a self-induced internship for me, because I'm trying to figure out not only how I want to show up in this space, but also like what I want to be doing in that space when I do show up, And a part of me realized last year that I can't figure that out for the rest of my life until I just try some things now, And I think that I have been on my butt for a very long time, as a creative, because I wanted to be sure that the first idea that I start is the only idea I'm going to need and want for the rest of my time, when that's not how it works, And so I've tried a lot of things this year, even the newsletter I put out every couple weeks, and writing and releasing a guided journal that was not planned until probably the summer of this year, and I put it out by like November, just because I wanted to try it. I just wanted to see what would happen. How would I feel when it's released, right? Is it my best piece of work? I mean, I still adore it. I think it's timeless, but it could be better, right? And I think that like the goal of it wasn't to like have a hit guided journal. That was not the goal. The goal was to really experience the feeling of releasing something like a piece of writing and seeing what that would look like for me, and seeing if that's something I want to tap into again, right? And so I say all of this to say, um, when I do take time away from the podcast, it's really just for me to reestablish and refocus on, based on the evidence of my trying, like, what do I want to pursue next, and focus in on. And I've been feeling like I'm definitely going to be trying to do more podcasting next year. Trying to be consistent, but we'll see. I have a better idea now of my grad school lifestyle, I guess, so I can kind of account for that more in my like planning of the weeks. But Also, I'm I love the idea of working on something like a more of a project and spending more time on it, and then when it's released, it has like a better, I don't say longevity to it, but the consumption is a little bit more uh longer. And so, for example, like I've been really considering doing more writing next year and exploring that more because I definitely feel like I want to write more. Um, and so I'm gonna see what I can do with that. But I'm still in the figuring it out stage. I think that's the beauty of this podcast. I think from episode 1 to now, it's just like we're figuring it out together, you know? And as much as I like pursue my own things and you know, I invite you to do the same, right? Um this is not I there's so much pressure in society to look like you know what you're doing. And even in the posting that I do on Instagram or Twitter, like it can come across like I know what I'm doing, but I really don't. I'm really just trying anything and seeing what sticks because I'm understanding the value in, you know, 20s and 30s, which is the main demographic of this podcast, if you didn't know. 20s into like early 30s. And so with us being in this age group mostly, really it's so hard to not feel like embarrassed, I guess, when we look like we're trying something. Or even yesterday I was playing We're Not Really Strangers, which is like the unsponsored game of this podcast. And one of the questions was, what are you still trying to prove to yourself? And I think that for me that's been difficult to think about because as much as I feel like I'm just doing things and not afraid to be seen trying, I think there is a part of me that still is trying to prove to myself that I know what I'm doing, you know, and that like I'm good at this, and so I'm meant to do this, or like I know my purpose, you know. But the truth is, like I still really don't, right? And the more that I've tried this year, honestly, I've tried so many new things, even on the podcast, tried new conversations with new people, and I'm learning that there's even more things in my life that I've never thought about doing. That I'm wondering if I should be doing that, you know, and I should be integrating that into my passions, into my career, into my professional life. And I'm like, I wish I had this information like 4 or 5 years ago, but now like it's just as valuable today, you know? And a part of me wants to kind of kick myself because I wish I started this exploration sooner. But again, I think that's the pressure in society to feel like you have to know everything the minute you're born. You know, life is about experience, right? Life isn't about knowing what you're supposed to do. Life is about experiencing it to find that out. And so I'm on this journey of figuring that out. And so next year might look very different creatively for me than this year. And that's okay. Like it's okay to pivot, you know? It's genuinely okay. And it might sound crazy to somebody who isn't dealing with this stress, but for me it's been a consistent practice for me to remind myself that it's okay to pivot. It's okay to give yourself the grace to understand that you tried something and it wasn't executed or it isn't manifested in the way you exactly wanted it to be manifested. But now with that knowledge, that's power you can use to change, right? And try a new thing. And so I think that's really what I've been trying to like tell myself the most lately is that it's okay. It's great that you tried something and it's okay that it isn't exactly what you want it to be. Not with this information you have, take that and use it, right? Like don't waste that opportunity. You know, nothing's ever wasted if you don't want it to be. And so this is truly what I've been kind of wrestling with on a creative level. Um, and I'm going to be taking some time to journal about it. And I invite you guys to take some time you need to reflect and journal, whether that's journaling, whether that's a phone call with a trusted person, whether that's a relationship with a licensed professional, whatever you need to take this time, even if it's until next year, like just take some time, you know, think about your life. Constant theme on this podcast. But yeah, that's really all I think I want to say today. Um, but I just want to thank you guys so much for listening this year. I will not cry, but I appreciate each and every listener every single week or other month that listens to this podcast and takes time out of the schedule or puts it in the schedule while they're working, doing homework, whatever the case may be. to listen to me ramble about stuff and talk to people from, across the spaces and across different creative fields and different places. I don't know. Thank you for trusting me with your time, is what I'm trying to say, because I don't take it for granted. And that also fuels me to want to be better at being confident, focusing on what I want to put out, being aligned with my passion and my values, because I'm not going to waste your time. That's wasting my time. And so, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. If you watched the newsletter vlogs that came out earlier this year, there's one more that will be out, hopefully, by the time this podcast is out. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, you can sign up in the bio, in the description of this podcast. And when you get a welcome email, you will get a link to like a playlist with all the different vlogs that I put out. And I will also be taking a break from the newsletter until the new year. Also going to be changing some things with newsletter. Just trying to cater what I put out to where I'm trying to go professionally and where I'm trying to go creatively. And so, if the podcast kind of has a different segments to it or a different vibe to it, I'm taking my time to figure that out right now. So, you guys are amazing for being a part of this first season, I guess. We'll call this year like season 1. But, I have no idea what it will look like next year. Probably very similar. But I appreciate you guys so much. Like I said, if you guys have small businesses you want to promote for the new year, in the coming year, please let me know. You can send those emails to heartofshama@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me you want to be to answer next year, or different episode topics you feel like you want to cover next year, please let me know. My social media is at JustAlexToday on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah, thank you guys so much also for rating and reviewing the podcast on Apple Podcasts. It warms my heart to see the reviews and the ratings. If you haven't rated their podcast yet, please do so if you can. It would help a ton. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Anchor, all the places. I'm getting emotional as I'm wrapping this up, so I'm going to try to tie this quickly. But I really appreciate each and every one of you, and please have happy holidays, however you celebrate that. Happy New Year, all the things. I will see you when I see you. Yeah, I'm going to go now. That is what I'm going to do. And not cry. Okay, bye.